I was flipping through the first Naruto fanbook one day, when I came across an interesting feature in the book, a page called The Story's Themes Made Clear, Naruto's Liner Notes. The page contains notes from Kishimoto about Naruto's early themes. Kishimoto explains that the earliest theme in Naruto is recognition. Who will you recognize, and who will recognize you? This theme is certainly important to the series, because, from the outset, Naruto's goal is to be recognized by the village. Naruto doesn't want to live in solitude, and understands intuitively, but not yet entirely, that his pain can only be healed by others. And this connects to another fundamental aspect of Naruto, identity. I mentioned in my last video that Naruto's saving grace was that Iruka recognized his identity as a person, unlike the villagers that saw him as a Ninetales kid and didn't see how hard he was working to be noticed. That earliest recognition put Naruto on the path to becoming who he is, the recognition of his true identity. And that word, identity, led me to consider Obito. Or is it Toby? Madara? Nobody? A character of shifting identities who opposes Naruto. While Obito's clash with reality is the focus of his character, Obito's identity crisis is the crux. And one of the things that I found interesting about Naruto is his obsession with finding out who the masked man is during the war arc. This isn't just a little curiosity. Once Naruto finds out that the masked man isn't actually Madara and insists on being nobody, he's livid. And it's understandable when you realize where Naruto is coming from. As someone who wanted to be someone, Naruto can't help but be angered by one who abandons their identity. As well, all Naruto wants is to truly be acknowledged by people in the real world. Obito wants to forcibly lead humanity to the infinite Tsukuyomi, a dream that would strip Naruto of all of that. So Obito insults Naruto's dreams, his identity, and his commitment to his real bonds. And this concept is not simply insulting to Naruto, it is the reason why Obito is wrong. The minute Obito sheds his identity and embraces the name Madara, he was bound to fail. Throughout Shippuden, Kishimoto establishes that accepting one's identity is what determines whether or not one will be acknowledged by others. And as he previously established early in Naruto, one who cannot be acknowledged by others has no right to lead anyone. Naruto and Sasuke explore the importance of introspection and self-acceptance regarding identity through their journeys prior to facing Obito. Naruto first must confront Nagato, who seeks to create peace through warfare under the name Pain. Much like Obito, Nagato's failure stems from his inability to stay true to himself and recognize who he is. He forsakes the words of his past in order to pursue the persona of a god, believing that he has moved past humanity to achieve his goals, not abandon them. Nagato told Jiraiya that he would never give up looking for a solution to mankind's conflict. But Pain's goal is not to permanently break the cycle of hatred. Pain's goal is to interrupt it for short periods of time by introducing each generation to immense suffering through war. In this way, Nagato gave up on the ideals he created with Jiraiya, and he embraced the name Pain. This switch in identities is important, as Naruto established the significance of names, of identity, while talking with Pain. During this arc, Naruto reads the Tales of a Guthy Shinobi, a book authored by their mutual master, Jiraiya. He discovers that his name, Naruto, was the name of the main character in Jiraiya's novel, a shinobi who never gave up on his quest to end the cycle of hatred. Naruto also meets his father, who gave him that name, and he learns that he was made a Jinchuriki with a purpose, because Minato believed in the ability to defeat Madara and achieve peace. Naruto literally learns what the name Naruto means, what it symbolizes, embracing those ideals in his clash with Pain. While admitting that he has not forgiven Pain, Naruto remarks that he simply has to keep moving forward, and believing that he can break the cycle of hatred, because he is Naruto, and that's what it means to be Naruto. In seeing Naruto's resolve, Nagato realizes that he hasn't become a higher being, and he hasn't found a better route to achieving Jiraiya's ideals. He simply ran away from being Nagato. He realizes that Nagato is the ideals that led Jiraiya to write his book, the ideals that inspired Naruto, similar to how Naruto is currently those ideals and the wishes of his father. By embracing being Naruto, Naruto can't give up. But Nagato embraced being Pain instead, such that he stopped following those ideals the minute he left the name. Pain does not get the solution to his problems with the world from Naruto, but he realizes that he is Nagato, and won't solve anything by running away from that fact. Because Naruto looks within and learns more about who he is and what he represents, he can then connect with and save Nagato, for how could someone who does not understand themselves understand others? This idea is shown throughout the war arc. In order to master the Ninetales chakra, Naruto has to first fully face himself. Despite saving the village from Pain, Naruto is far from settled. He isn't certain of how he will fulfill his promise to Nagato, and he isn't fully comfortable with the village's opinion of him flipping overnight. But after meeting Killer Bee and seeing how he retains his optimism in the face of uncertainty, Naruto deals with his inner darkness by proclaiming that he will just continue to believe in himself and never waver, allowing him to get past his hate through his own optimism. Naruto needs to reach this as a baseline point to face off against Kurama, who is the embodiment of hatred. But Naruto also needs something else. Naruto only gets past Nine Tails after he meets his mother and learns his whole history. At this point, Naruto knows what his name means, his story, his purpose, that he is loved, and has resolved to believe in Naruto, the Naruto established by the hopes of his predecessors and the belief of the people supporting him. Fully armed with introspection into his true self, Naruto overcomes Nine Tails, can for the first time confidently claim that he'll be coming for the Fox's hatred one day, and heads into the war arc confidently. Naruto is ready for a showdown with Obito after confronting all of this, but Sasuke is not able to do so until he confronts the idea of identity in Kabuto. Kabuto's failure lies in the fact that he can't look within and discover any self-worth. As a spy who had no history, he lost any semblance of his identity until he met Orochimaru. Orochimaru also felt empty, and tried to fill himself by seeking absolute knowledge and power. Having lost Orochimaru, Kabuto was aimless, and decided to simply copy Orochimaru's path in the search for who he actually was. Itachi notes that those who can't acknowledge themselves will always fail. Itachi knows this because his life was full of failure. Itachi told himself that he could do everything on his own, which was a lie that ended up destroying him and hurting those he cared about most. No one can succeed on their own like that, because people are imperfect, not gods. Itachi lied to everyone to cover up that first lie he told himself, so in death, he learned that people who lie to themselves will inevitably lie to others. And those who lie to others cannot be trusted, will be left alone, and will fail. He tries to show Sasuke that the first step to being acknowledged by others, then, is to love and acknowledge yourself, a state Naruto has just achieved. Sasuke will not fully take this to heart until he clashes with Naruto, but Sasuke at least listens to Itachi and reflects on his history. He then seeks to learn more about the past and the history of shinobi from the past Hokage, to be able to strengthen his resolve before going to war. In this, Naruto and Sasuke go through similar experiences prior to facing Obito, who has a similar identity crisis. Naruto learns of Jiraiya and Nagato's history, Minato's reasons for making him a Jinchuriki, and Kushina's tale about his birth, to get a firm understanding of his self that underpins his will and ideology. Sasuke learns this lesson from Itachi, and sought out the full history of the village system before engaging in the 4th Great Ninja War. Naruto gains self-confidence after receiving the love of both of his parents, and Sasuke gains confidence in his path after receiving Itachi's unconditional love. But Sasuke is still lying to himself, believing that he can become the world's savior like Obito and Madara believe. So the one responsible for reaching out to Obito is the modern version of his past self, the current Naruto. Going back to the beginning, it is now understandable why Naruto is so obsessed with cracking Obito's mask. He's just been through a long character arc of finding out who he is and what he represents, finding the resolve to push forward and lead others through his belief in himself and his ideals. When you live by who you are, you demonstrate that people should believe in you, and you gain their recognition and cooperation in return. As well, only one who understands themselves can hope to understand others. Naruto demonstrates this in his fight versus the Biju. Naruto learns their names and promises that he will save them even though he doesn't have to do that in order to win. When Naruto learned about his mother's past and how she was able to fill her life with love despite being a Jinchuriki, Naruto's perspective on his own life changed. He began to look at the Nine Tails differently, and was able to confidently tell Obito that being a Jinchuriki is not all bad. This mindset causes the Biju in turn to acknowledge him, not just Son Goku, who he first helped, but all of them, including the Nine Tails. Just as Iruka recognized Naruto's name to set him along his journey, Naruto makes peace with the Nine Tails by learning his name, Kurama, recognizing him as a person, not a demon fox, and declaring him a partner of a citizen of Konoha village, a direct connection to Iruka's words. Naruto gets stronger, because he forged bonds with the Biju by recognizing them. His resolution with Kurama upgrades his perfect Jinchuriki mode. His fist bumps with the Biju allow them to share their chakra, which Naruto will need in the battles against Obito, Madara, and Kaguya. He gains these powers for knowing how important the identities of each Biju and their Jinchuriki are. In this way, having a song dedicated to explaining all of their names in the anime is really fitting. When Naruto finally faces off against Obito, it is the world versus Obito. By sending his clones across the many battlefields and demonstrating that he sees all shinobi as worth protecting, The allied shinobi forces resolved to help Naruto in return, just as the Biju decided to help him earlier. Obito, on the other hand, is alone. His only ally, Madara, has contingencies in place for when Obito inevitably betrays him, underscoring that Itachi was right. Someone who lies to himself won't be trusted by others. Obito seeks the infinite Tsukuyomi because he ran away from the misfortunes of reality. After losing Rin, his heart was empty, so a solution was to fill it with the dream world. Obito goes out of his way to make Naruto despair by killing his comrades and challenging his ideals, because he needs to prove to himself that he is correct by denying Naruto, who is similar to his past self. But in their clash, Obito increasingly realizes that the world is not fake. He is the fake. Naruto's refusal to back down touches him, and makes him see that the real Obito is the one who existed in the past, in Kakashi's heart, and in the present Naruto. Naruto does this by demonstrating that you can't fill your heart with a lie. You can only do that with others. Obito's dreams don't give him strength, but Naruto gains strength from both the allies who support him and the memories of those he's lost along the way. Doing this requires taking on the pain of loss and failure, but doing that is what makes Naruto a leader. Unlike Obito, Naruto does not take shortcuts. He stays true to who he is and his path, walking ahead of people. Obito can't commit to that because he can't commit to himself. Early in Naruto, Konohamaru complains to Naruto that no one respects him, that they don't refer to him by his name, only as the Hokage's grandson. Naruto explains to him that he has to earn people's respect through his actions, because there is no shortcut to being Hokage. You need to establish who you are through hard work and demand that respect. Obito wants to lead, but he doesn't want to be anybody, any person that could be followed. He seeks salvation, but that only comes through bonds forged with others through mutual recognition. Who will you recognize, and who will recognize you? Those were the words of Kishimoto years before these events ever played out. Because he has no identity, and makes no attempt to work hard to earn recognition, Obito cannot be recognized, and thus cannot succeed. Furthermore, just as Pain could eventually admit that he was Nagato, Naruto shows Obito that deep down he wants to be his old self again, the true Obito. He points out that when Obito gained control over his Berserk Jubi mode, he did so by maintaining his identity and memories. When Obito resists becoming himself, Naruto angrily remarks that Obito can no longer imagine himself being Hokage, emphasizing again that he isn't fit to lead while he remains deluded. Naruto shows that his bonds, created by that mutual recognition, are what sets them apart. When Naruto is pushed to the brink, Hinata, Kakashi, Minato, and others are always there to pick him up and remind him of who he is. Naruto is also only able to defeat Obito during the ultimate tug of war due to his connections. Through the literal power of bonds, Naruto's link to his friends, the Biju, and the allied shinobi forces, Naruto forcibly pulls the Biju out of Obito and pulls Obito back to who he was. After his defeat, Kakashi explains to Obito that he doesn't know if Obito's goal of the infinite Tsukuyomi was wrong, but what he does know is that he'll support Naruto because he is someone who never gives up on his dreams or forsakes anything. This steadfastness attracts others to Naruto, so someone will always be there to pick him up if he stumbles. Naruto did exactly what he prescribed to Konohamaru. He worked hard and showed who he was to the world to become recognized and truly powerful. And the shinobi recognized by all has another name in Naruto, the Hokage. Identity is the heart of why Naruto prevails over Obito. His unwavering adherence to his identity is what draws people to him, and his ability to recognize other people's identities also gives him strength. When Obito dies, Naruto defends him in front of Kaguya and Black Setsu. I understand that this is a very controversial scene. Obito, after all, was responsible for the death and suffering of thousands in the ninja world, and close friends of Naruto. But viewed from this new lens, I think it makes sense. Naruto sees Naruto as a concept, the accumulation of his ideals and dreams that he gained from his life and bonds. Were he to abandon those things, he would not be Naruto. When Naruto says that Obito is nothing but awesome as someone who tried to become Hokage, he is doing the same thing. He is separating Obito, the ideals and his recent actions, from those of Tobi and Nobody. Is this overly idealistic? I don't think so. It's completely in line with Naruto's character to make this distinction, and it's thematically important that he does. Naruto's ability to recognize the identities of others is what allows them to recognize and support him in return, and his choice to redeem the true Obito gives him strength and helps him defeat Kaguya. And that's what this story is. A boy's fight to earn everyone's respect, learning that this can only happen after he learns who he is and how to love himself first. How the boy uses that self-confidence and empathy to connect to others, and how he gains the recognition of the world in the process. At the end of the day, it's very fitting that this story is simply called Naruto.